What is good, everybody? Welcome to StockWatch for episode 12 of Survivor 44. With me, as always, welcome, Will. Big hands, big wavy man. Will, what's going on?
Nothing much. Survivoring, the finale's soon. Finale's in 2 days. I'm excited.
Maybe it is in 2 days. I could go for a really good slice of pie, enjoying a nice cold beer on a Wednesday night in front of my TV, watching the finale of Survivor 44.
Yeah.
I can't believe, I can't believe it's almost over. I also can't believe, we've been continuing to do this, do this podcast. We started at episode 8.
Yeah. Now it's episode 12 for a month.
Wow. A whole month of doing this podcast. Still my first podcast ever. This is my first one. I've never done one ever in my life. So, it's pretty fun for me. It's pretty fun. I enjoy it. What's up with you, man? What's going on in your life?
Well, Thursday is my last day of high school. And then after that, I'm on like a 2-week break. And then graduation. And then senior week, which I'm excited about. I mean, the boys going up to Bethany.
Bethany Beach.
Yep.
I love it.
Because Ocean City is just way too trashy for me.
Don't trash Ocean City. We go to the beach there every single year.
Oh, it's great. It's just it's also like it's trashy. I'm Maryland.
It is. But it is. But in front of me, respect me. I go there. That's cool, man. Bethany Beach for senior week. You graduate on Thursday, so you get to watch the finale of Survivor, go to bed, wake up, and then you're done. And then you got one more day.
I don't graduate then. It's weird. I graduate on the 9th of June. It's just I have a 2-week period of doing nothing.
That's just sad. You just got to get out. You just got to get out of high school, man. That is a prison.
Well, again, like Thursday, I just don't have school. So it's like... So it's not like I'm still doing stuff. Like it's pretty much like summer break starts.
Yeah, it's a lot. You're just hanging out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anywho, Survivor.
Yeah, that's why we're here. We always say. This episode, it was weird. Do I think it was better than the last? Like the trend of it keeps getting better as it goes on? I don't know. Honestly, I liked it. I definitely liked it. I definitely think probably the biggest theme of the season has been really interpersonal relationships and kind of how people feel about each other and personal connection to each other. Not much strategic game, cutthroat, cold kind of deal. It's really been about interpersonal relationships, and if we want to get more specific with it, really about the TK3 and how they have interacted with each other. And so I think that was widely on display for this episode.
Yeah. I think the interesting part is that, and I feel like we'll say this at a later point, but I feel like it's weird because this season, in theory, shouldn't be as interesting as it is because it has no steamroll. TK3 have been controlling everything.
Absolutely.
But the fact that it's less about the gameplay and more about the personality and the relationships, it makes the season that much better, right?
Absolutely.
And so that's a huge plus for Survivor 44. And that's, I think it's less the fact that the season itself was good. It was more we were able to watch it in the best way possible. And, again, I've always defended Survivor US for the editing. I feel like Survivor US has always been masterfully edited. And
it's the best. It's the best Survivor editing, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. And so, I mean, as long as we have the format of Australian Survivor with the editing of the US, we would have Survivor at its peak. But
we would have the apex of Survivor.
I will say, on behalf of the episode itself, I feel like, I mean this in the nicest way possible, I feel like Jamie going is kind of like a filler episode. And I feel like the fact that Survivor producers were able to make the episode as intense as it was, because you saw it on Twitter, you saw it everywhere. Everyone thought it would be a Carolyn blindside. But the fact that Jamie going, it was amazing. Because I think it's less impactful, and I think I know we always say like the next episode is going to be the best, next episode will be the climax, but I feel like the final four boot is going to be the climax of the season.
I do think so as well.
Because I think that determines whether or not Carson wins or not, which I don't think he's going to win. But I think, and honestly, the final tribal council, because it might be a Jam Jam versus Carolyn vote, and that no matter how you slice it will be great. You know, people are going to support either Jam Jam or Carolyn, and Heidi also, and even Lauren, you know, and Carson obviously, like they all have a strong case. And it's not like no one played bad. I think the only person that truly played bad this season was Jamie, but like it wasn't really Jamie's fault either. She found a fake idol with her closest ally and she believed him, and that kind of, you know, but it's whatever.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think you're absolutely right. I think this season has been a lot of good fluid moments and a lot of great characterization. And I think the editing has been absolutely fantastic to really highlight how personal and how connected the Tiki 3 is. I think that is by far the best part of the season. And I think it's also probably what is going to be looked upon when people look at this season. It's going to be looked at how a group of three, how their relationships to each other transformed, when evolved over the season, with every vote, with every minute of the day. Like it changed. And I think what was really awesome and what we commented on in a previous episode was, you know, Survivor used like not too long ago, but recently, before the new era, was all about propping up the B plot or the C plot of who was going to go home. And
I remember
this time, I love it. This episode in particular has done such a good job at really promoting the A plot. It was clear that Carolyn was going to be a target based on the next time on Survivor. And then, you know, with all of that, and then with everything that happened in the episode, a lot of people on Twitter
freaking
out, but had a fair assumption. Like, had an absolutely fair, valid assumption. It was really edited like Carolyn was done. And like this was the end of Carolyn.
Yep.
And it wasn't. And the B plot happened. And so we were talking about that because there's been a lot of, it's always the A plot that's going home. There's a B plot brought up, but it's always the A plot going home.
Yep.
This time, it was the right time to make it that way, where it was edited like it was going to be a Carolyn blindside, and then you sweep it out because fans were relieved. They thought it was great. I think people might be a little butthurt because they were misled, but I think it's genius. I was misled. I mean, I didn't think Carolyn was going home, but you know, there was a little bit of fear. I was like, am I wrong? Wasn't I wrong?
And that's, I mean, again, and the reason why we thought Carolyn was going was because of the last few episodes, because the main person does go home. And so it makes a vote like this a lot more suspenseful. And that's why, again, I think Survivor US has hit its stride with editing the modern season. I don't know how season 44 will be looked at in the future in retrospect. I do think it is the best, and I know this is recency bias, but I think it is the best of the last 4 seasons.
Yep.
And not just that, but I feel like the best seasons really dive into these interpersonal relationships, right? Like the only or the second best regarded season of the modern era was season 42. Why? Because you had the main alliance of 4. What was it?
The Taku 4.
Taku 4, not Ratu. The tribe names all sound the same. That's my one in the modern era.
That sucks.
But you know, like we had that as the beating heart of the season, and so I think, you know, the Taki 3. Oh my god, you know, Tika. I hate Survivor.
The names are so similar. I don't like
They
it.
are.
Continue.
But the Tika 3, I think is what makes and breaks the season. And it's not just those 3 too. I think it's also everyone else in the season that helps, right? Because you can have the best, trio in Survivor, but if you're cast with a bunch of duds, then who cares, right? Like we have 3 Amigos and Pheromone. A great trio, terrible cast, right? But we have Danny and Jamie and Franny and Lauren and even like Matt and Brandon and especially Josh.
I personally like when I'm thinking about this season, especially in the future, when this season is done and people are going to look at it, I think it'll be a pretty good season. I think it will be top 20, and I stand by that. I don't think that's dropping. I think the finale is going to be great, and I think it's going to stay top 20 for sure. I always look at this season, I think now and probably in the future, as a case study of why this particular dynamic happened, what happened with it, and what was the result. Because there were side characters to support it, but it was always really about that 3. And I always like to compare this season now to the case study of this season versus the case study of Ghost Island. Mm-hmm. Because Ghost Island, you have a dominant duo with a pretty dominant alliance with Laurel and Donathan with them, but a dominant duo running the game for all of the game. Dom and Wendell.
Yep.
I have never seen another season of Survivor run like that because it was clear from probably the 3rd episode that it was like, oh, okay, so they're going to break it really far and they're going to run things. And it was that for the rest of the game. And even in the merge, it was always a will they, won't they kind of thing. Like, will Laurel actually make a move on them? It never happened. Yeah. And so I always like to compare that because Ghost Island, I think, is a case study gone wrong because they really casted a couple pretty bad duds. Like people that I personally don't think really should have played, and better people should have either made it farther or better people should have been on the show. This season, I think better people have been on the show, yeah, but I think better people have made it farther, and I think the dynamic is a lot more interesting because it's not about an auxiliary person trying to see if they can split up the power.
Mm-hmm.
It's more about what's going to happen between the power.
And that's interesting because I think one thing that we've really heard about in the modern lens is, the era of alliances were over. I remember that was a quote Rhetoric used from a few episodes ago, but really, like alliances have been shown that it is still the core of Survivor.
It is.
Because
44 seasons.
44 seasons. You go back to season 1, we had the
Is that Tagi? It's Tagi.
Tagi, and then now we have Tika, and then Taku. Like, this is weird. I hate tribe names, man. Always, all of them are bad. Every single
Terrible.
one.
I always remember Pagong because they got Pagong.
And Oolong. Anywho, but it's crazy how people like to spin around the idea that alliances are gone or over, but the Tika 3 have shown that if you just have trust with someone and with a solid group, you can go exceptionally far. And if you maneuver the right way, then you can go farther. And that's the one thing about the Tika 3 that I love is that every single member is incredibly important. And the alliance would flop if anyone else was in any of their shoes. As much as I diss Carson, Carson played such an important role. And he played such a great game throughout the entire season. A losing game, but such a great game because he was able to keep Jam Jam and Carolyn together. Carolyn is a social butterfly, and Jam Jam is kind of like the meat shield who takes all the credit. I love Jam Jam, but and Jam Jam also makes a lot of the strategic moves. And if it wasn't for those 3, then we'd be looking at a different outcome.
Absolutely. I think we should get into it because I want to dig into specifics on Carolyn and Jam Jam, but like everyone else, honestly, because there's a lot happened with everybody individually. That's what I love about the end game. The edits, they're not that balanced, but everybody gets something. And so there's some story there to kind of pick apart and analyze, and that's what we do. So we're going to go do it. Carolyn! Hooray! Yeah. We talked about Carolyn, and we talked about how she it was led to believe that she would have been booted this episode. Obviously, with our expert analysis over here at StockWatch, we didn't really see that.
I was wrong. I admit.
What do you mean?
I just said always thought she was a losing finalist. I said she could go, but I honestly thought her role was a losing finalist, where she would try to make a pitch for her game, and then everyone would be like, no, kind of like Dean in 39.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think
we were wrong.
We were wrong. We're sorry. What I think is so interesting about Carolyn now is I've seen a bit of opinion go around that this was the episode that caused Jam Jam to lose the game. People have been starting to talk, not like concrete, this is what happens, but they've been talking, and they think that because Jam Jam made an emotional decision, admittedly, like a relatively emotional decision, because Jamie was not winning the game, a relatively emotional decision to keep Carolyn and get rid of Jamie, that this was the episode that caused Jam Jam to lose and caused Carolyn to win. And I am interested in that perspective because we also talked about Carolyn kind of approaching this game as a bell curve, where she was always going to get closer to Jam Jam but was never going to surpass him. I think it's the closest it's ever been. If Jam Jam is 2, Carolyn is 1.999999999. Like, she is right there. I don't give her the edge because I think that just Jam Jam's strength of an edit is stronger, and he kind of represents a lot of what this season is, and I think he can explain himself well in front of the jury. But I think this was really indicative, and I think it's a really interesting take that should definitely be considered because it is Jam Jam or Carolyn for real. Those are the two. And I think it's a really interesting take that I think if Carolyn does win on Wednesday night, we're going to look back at this and go, yeah, that's the right perspective. This was the episode that Jam Jam lost the game.
I think I don't think necessarily that this was the episode that made Jam Jam lose. Mm-hmm. I think honestly, instead, I don't because again, the edit isn't this is why Jam Jam lost, right? I think it's more of this is how Carolyn won. And I think no matter what, the fans, everyone has been very divided on who's winning the game between Jam Jam and Carolyn. And so, fans might look at tonight's episode and be like, this is why Jam Jam lost, because Carolyn, was able to pull through and Jam Jam was a little emotional. You could also spin around and say, Jam Jam, no matter what he was thinking, he was still able to pull it through. He still never let go of his iron grip over the season.
Right.
And so, I think the Jamie vote isn't the most impactful vote. Again, my view of this episode was that it was a filler episode, right? And that's okay. Every narrative needs like a filler, just a downtime where everyone's like, all right, let's vote Jamie. And as suspenseful as the episode was, I really think that we will see why Jam Jam lost or why Carolyn won or why Jam Jam won in the final tribal council. I don't know. I do agree. I think Jam Jam has the edge. I don't think that this was the episode. If anything, I think Carolyn winning is going to be the summation of little tiny moves and not one big Jam Jam blunder, if that makes sense.
I like that perspective. I think I'm more along the lines of saying, by the way, hey, Chris, good to see you. I think I'm more along the lines of the perspective that when I look back on it, if Carolyn does win this season, I think this will be the principal reason why Jam Jam lost, because Jam Jam had the opportunity to get rid of Carolyn. But I'm not discrediting Carolyn at all. She played a great game. Under the radar, really, really cool and really savvy, despite being very zany and over the top.
Really sad. That cannot be understated.
Absolutely.
Again, Carolyn... So we cannot explain enough how close it is between Jam Jam and Carolyn.
It is literally the heavyweight bout. Like, it is... Like, it was literally like this. It was 41. Like, is it going to be Erica? It's probably going to be Erica, right?
Mm-hmm.
right? 42, it's probably going to be Marianne.
No one was doubting Marianne. Everyone
Yeah,
knew
it was Marianne. 43, I guess Jesse, but I don't know. Gabler won. We didn't know.
Everyone said Cassidy.
Whatever. This is another great winner contender dynamic because we have two that are so strong and so diverse and distinct that it's just going to be exciting to watch because this season has been exciting because of them. Carson too, because he's with that. But because of Jam Jam and Carolyn, this season has been that exciting because they are just such unique and incredible characters and one of the best we've had on Survivor in a while.
Oh, yeah. No one can deny that. And I know Survivor Now, we made a post about all of our winner picks, and so people were asking about the lack of Carolyn. Mm-hmm. And I just want to also say, as much as humanly possible, it's not that we're discrediting Carolyn. It's just, it's way too tight.
Yeah.
And if Carolyn wins, I will be the happiest fish in the sea.
It'll be great.
I'll be the happiest fish in the sea. No matter what, the true winners of Survivor is the audience because we get a cool winner.
We had a great season, and I think Jam Jam or Carolyn winning, we're going to have a great winner that's very different and distinct from a lot of winners we've had.
Even if Lauren or Heidi win.
There's going to be a distinct winner. Carson's like Carson's like a game bot, so it's fine. Yeah, I was shocked there wasn't a Carolyn vote. Yeah, like that's the thing I was talking about. Like a lot of people had the perspective that it was gonna be Carolyn's time to go. And I also think that's really interesting because again, like if this was Jam Jam's blunder, it's gonna be looked at that. And I think Jam Jam would have been looked at as playing a great game, but just this one emotional decision. What about Tegwith voting for Jeff Probst? Jeff Probst always wins. Every season. He doesn't win.
Last season. He hated last season.
He did not like last season. No, he did not. But I think this season he won. We'll get to why I think Jeff Probst won when we talk about Jam Jam, because I have a point about that.
Oh God.
Carson. The only thing I'm going to really talk about with Carson, because I do think he loses, I think it could be fifth, but I think it's going to be fourth, but it could be fifth as well. I think why I put him at 4 is because of that fact. I think he's going to get eliminated before the final 3, and so that's why I put his stock lower.
I think the problem with Carson is that I do not think in any world he beats Carolyn or Jam Jam, and I do not see any universe where Carson votes out both Carolyn and Jam Jam. Mm-hmm. Because, obviously there's fire making and whatnot. But, if Carson makes a move on Carolyn, then Jam Jam's going to rally the troops, and then I feel like he would beat Carson in a challenge or in fire, right? Weird to say, but, Jam Jam, I think, has one more challenges than Carson. No, they're equal.
No, they're equal. Yeah.
But, I just don't see a world where Carson places higher than Carolyn and Jam Jam, which is the only reason why I discredit his game. And he's played a great game. It's just I feel like his narrative ended tonight. Or not even tonight, like last night, I feel like he got saved by Carolyn, and now it's more of like Carson is just kind of like hanging out, along with Lauren and Heidi. But yeah,
I think Carson's winning move at this point, if Carson were to make the end, like in this hypothetical scenario where Carson would get to the end and win, he would need to cut Jam Jam and Carolyn. Jam Jam and Carolyn would have to be 5th and 4th because there's a chance.
Yeah.
He could be Lauren and Heidi. Not even like a strong chance, maybe.
And one more thing too, if he does turn his back on Jam Jam and Carolyn, they will be pissed. They will be extremely upset.
Right.
And they will go to the jury and demon, because again, Carson's whole game has been very game body, and people see that. People know that. And so if he turns his back on the Tika 3, then all of his social gameplay will be called into question as just being gameplay, right? Mm-hmm. Well, I feel like Heidi and Lauren have made actual bonds and actual connections, and you get a jury emotional enough, and they will reward that over game bodiness. And
Absolutely.
so, I think Carson's highest placement will be third. I think if for somehow he makes it to final three, I think it's going to be with Jam Jam and Carolyn, and
Yeah.
that's the only final three makeup I see him in. And I do not think he wins.
I don't think he wins it. I mean, I think personally Carson has played a great game, and I think the jury sees that. But as the edit says, as the edit kind of speaks, it hasn't spoken to that as much as how strong Carolyn and Jam Jam have been.
Yep.
Carson has been a very relaxed, kind of stereotypical game bot edit. And he has played a great game, and I think people will respect that if he does get to the end. But just the way it's been focused on, I think just the personalities of Carolyn and Jam Jam are going to win over Carson.
And I honestly want to see Carson back in about 10 years. I want to see Carson when he's older, because I feel like he'll still have the game savviness, but I think it'll be kind of like Spencer from Second Chances, where he wants to learn how to develop actual true bonds. And I'm not saying he's not developing any bonds. I just feel like he looks at the game too strategically.
I agree. I think you're right. I think Carson does deserve to come back at some point. I don't know if Jeff Probst will ever do a returnee season again. But if he does, Carson should come back soon, not like too soon, but soon. Mm-hmm. And I think you're right. I think if he gets some time to really learn from what this experience taught him, how he was a little bit too strategic, and I think he really kind of almost dives into how he bonded with Tika, I think he'll win.
Yep.
Point blank. I think he'd easily win the game.
Yep, absolutely.
100%.
And two, I kind of want Carson to lose, so I'm still in contention for youngest survivor winner. It's gonna happen.
I like your enthusiasm, Will. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Heidi! I was upset. Heidi had an idol. And personally, I thought if she played it for Carolyn, I would have been like, oh, okay. I don't get that, but that's a move. Like, that's a play. But playing it for herself just sealed her fate for me as not even just a losing finalist, third place.
Yeah.
I do think if she gets a vote, it's Danny. And that's it.
One thing, too, I'll say is, notice how last time Carolyn misplayed an idol and the jury fawned over it. They were like, oh my God, this is great. And when Heidi played her idol, I don't think anyone really cared. Like, people might have been excited. They're like, oh, cool, an idol. But it had less of an impact, right? And so, I don't get it. But at the same time, too, it's like, if I was in Heidi's shoes, I'd probably do the same thing. Like, why not? Because you never know on Survivor. It's expiring. Just play it for yourself. That way you're guaranteed. I'm sure Heidi spent the day at camp just kind of relaxing. Like, all right, who do we vote out? But, like, I can't fault her for it. But at the same time, too, it's like, I think there's cooler things you could have done. You could have taken it home as a souvenir. Throw it in the ocean.
I think what would have been a really interesting move is
playing it on Jamie.
Yeah, that would be a crazy move. That would be really cool. That would be really fun.
Heidi the game. Like,
that would have been a ginormous move, and that would have been crazy. And that's the Heidi I think we all wanted to see, but unfortunately,
But
so
at the same time, I want to see Carolyn win. So it's like,
Thank you. Our God, our Lord, Survivor Now podcast. I said, this crew always kills these episodes. Thank you. We're going to go ahead and move on to Lauren. 2 immunities. Who thought Lauren would be the new Franny?
Me.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
Yeah,
No.
Looking at the cast, Lauren easily has like the best, the highest. Do you think Jam Jam's going to win a competition?
He did.
Dog, the competition was stay there and breathe. All right.
Yeah, that's a hard competition.
Dog, you just put your face in a bar. No, okay, did I think Lauren will be a challenge beast? No. But is winning 2 challenges being a challenge beast? Also no. So
Comparatively, it is because it was realistic. Well, Franny was the challenge. Franny's the challenge piece. Like Franny was the, quote unquote challenge piece. But
don't forget too, like the amount of challenges, like the percentage of challenges Franny competed in and won is higher than the challenges Lauren competed in and won. But
yeah,
I like Lauren was someone like I thought always had a good chance to win challenges. I also think Carolyn had a good chance originally, but
yeah,
she's
not been the greatest.
We all can't be Survivor Challenge winners.
No, we can't. I think Lauren. I think the jury actually has a decent amount of respect for Lauren. I think she's played a little bit like an underdog. She's been kind of on the wrong side of these votes, but I think there's a little bit of respect. Do I think it's 100% she's going to win the game? Respect? No. But I do think there's a good amount of respect for Lauren for winning 2 challenges, having a great personal story. And I think that, I'm really happy with Lauren. Like, I was really happy with Franny and how she turned out, and I'm really happy with Lauren and how she turned out because Lauren really did a great heel turn from that first episode to here. And even though she was relatively under the radar this episode, it was still so great to see her fighting to win immunity, and she's in the final 5. Like, she has still no votes against her. I personally think she'll get 5th. Like, I personally think she'll go home in 5th place. But the fact that she never got a single vote against her name all the way until the last time you could actually vote for her, I think it's pretty damn good. And I think
really impressive.
I think that's something, plus the immunities, I think that's something Lauren's going to take away and be proud of this season.
No, I will say, too, Lauren did spend the entire pre-merge completely immune.
Yes.
One knock I think Lauren lost the game tonight because Jamie went home, because now everyone, like, Atika is making the final tribal council.
And that probably game for everyone else.
As much as we talk down about Carson, I still think he has a better chance at winning over all the non-Tikas.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think Lauren's best shot, honestly, was sitting next to Heidi and Jamie. And Lauren can talk about her under the radar gameplay.
Right.
Get a lot of the raw tube votes. Maybe get, like, I don't know, Franny. Would Franny vote? Like, who knows?
I don't know.
But still, but regardless, I think Lauren brought a lot more to the season than just gameplay. I think
absolutely
her personal growth, or just a personality. She was a fun personality, very similar to Jamie, but I think just played better. And I'm kind of sad that she got shafted for a good while. She could have easily had confessionals like early merge, late pre. I know she wasn't ever in danger, but still, just Lauren being like, oh, I'm a teacher. That's cool. Just something. But regardless, I like Lauren a whole lot. She would win any other season of Survivor. Not gonna lie.
You think so?
Yep. Put her on any season.
I like that. That's a bold take. I like it. I think. What was I gonna say about Lauren? I completely forgot what I was gonna say about Lauren because I think we've talked. Yeah. I completely forgot. I talked about earlier that I responded to Chris's comment about Tag with voting for Jeff Probst. Jeff Probst did not win last season.
No, he lost.
He won this season.
Yep.
Because obviously Jam Jam or Carolyn are going to win. Jeff Probst loves Jam Jam. Like, it's not like a normal, like, he likes to cast away. He loves Jam Jam. Like, Jam Jam is his favorite of the season and probably one of his favorites of the new era. Like,
100%.
Hands down, Jam Jam is Jeff's favorite. And so if Jam Jam does win this season, Jeff Probst is going to be giddy in his seat. He's going to go like, yeah, go Jam Jam. And Jeff Probst won because of that. But I think that speaks to Jam Jam's greatness as a player as a whole, because I think the greatest strength of Jam Jam is his likability.
Yep.
He is such an endearing and welcoming personality, and a very calculating personality as well. That is not abrasive. That is not pushing people away. It's pulling people in. He's calculating, but he is
Genuine.
so genuine in bringing people in. That's why I think Jam Jam, if he wins, will be such a fascinating winner, because the likability is off the charts. Everybody loves him. Everybody in the cast. There's no one that dislikes Jam Jam.
Oh yeah, like I don't see why anyone would dislike Jam Jam. Like, because a lot of times, like big personalities, I could see them getting old if you were on an island starving for, a whole month. But that's the thing with both Carolyn and Jam Jam, is that they're both so over the top, but just enough to where we see their personalities on full display constantly. And I feel like they're both very similar, because they're both very welcoming and people love them both, despite them being, oddballs. Jam
Absolutely.
Jam very over the top, kind of sassy, really cool. Carolyn very emotional, but they both don't let any of that take away from their core gameplay, and that's what makes them both fascinating as players. And no matter what, if either one of them wins, there's going to be a lot of deep dives on both their personality and how it affected their gameplay and how they managed that, right? And I'm sure they both give hope to, all the screwballs out there who, really want to play Survivor.
I agree. I think the greatest mark for both Jam Jam and Carolyn is that their gameplay, their actual playing the game is personally and personality infused.
Yep.
They are using their personalities as a weapon. And while it's not been properly dictated, I'm using my personality as a weapon, it is very clear that that is their game. And I think it's working absolute wonders for them. And that's why we think they're the two.
Not just us. Everyone thinks they're the winner. There might be a few Carson people. There might be some people holding out for a slight Heidi win. I'm pretty sure people at this point, they're just saying they want Lauren to win just off their personality. I think she doesn't really have a shot. That's okay. But again, they're just so fat. Like, who would have thought that someone like Jam Jam and Carolyn, would dominate?
You put a little more over the top in them. They get a little more over the top. Like, it's more over the top than gameplay. They're going out early merge or
pre-merge even.
The pre-merge even. Yeah, they're an over the top early boot that gets out of the game. God, I love it. I really can appreciate these types of winners, and not as much the types where it's strictly game. Like, it's strictly game for them. Like, we've started to see this a lot more with the new era especially, but also just some of the previous seasons. Like, Tony is a maniac. That man is maniacal, but he's personality infused, playing the game in a genius level manner. Nick is
winners at war.
Absolutely. Like, I really appreciate this trend, and I think that it's going to make an even bigger Survivor. I don't even know how I can make myself a bigger Survivor fan, honestly. Like, I'm on a podcast doing Survivor, covering edit analysis and StockWatch
Very
of
nerdy thing.
Survivor. Like, really down to the bones, the nerdiest stuff ever. But if this trend of winners continues, where there's just so much personality infused with them and there's a real story to how they win, man, I am going to love Survivor even more, because that's what I love to see. I love to see a real story, beginning, the rising action.
The hero's journey.
The hero's journey. The 12 steps of the hero's journey. Like, that's what I want to see more of in Survivor, and we're getting that. And it's so rewarding, and it's so exciting, too.
Oh, yeah.
I love it. What?
I said I love it too.
Oh, I thought you said you love me.
What?
I mean, if you don't, I'll be like upset.
All right, so this is the StockWatch tier list.
The StockWatch tier list. Yeah. I put double pluses for both Jam Jam and Carolyn. Jam Jam had a great episode because he was the focus of the episode. Like he was the focus of the episode. I'm going to stand by that. He had a lot of, the edits surrounding him and what he was going to do with Carolyn. And that's why I also give Carolyn plus because, this is the really this is the big weigher here for me. Is this the move? If Jam Jam got rid of Carolyn, would he dominate and win the game? Or is keeping Carolyn the right move to get him to win the game? And so that's why I give them both plus. I think now, though, you should really ignore the symbol key except for determining the episode quality for them. Because if you have Jam Jam stocks, if you have Carolyn stocks, sell them right now. It is the end.
Yep.
It is at the highest they've ever been. Sell them now because you are going to reap the benefits.
If you still had Carson stock, just cut your losses.
Yeah. Heidi and Carson, both bad episodes. Heidi misplaying that idol and really kind of losing most of her agency, guaranteeing a Tika win pretty much. And Carson kind of just being a secondary decider in this episode. Jam Jam was the decision force. Carson was with him and was deciding, but was not really the force behind that decision, or at least that's how it was presented to us. So, exactly. Yeah. So Carson had a really bad episode as well because, if he won the season, he would have been the main decider, and that would have been edited like that, but it's not. Yep. And then Lauren. I say stay, but you probably don't have a lot of Lauren stock. I say stay because Lauren winning her second immunity is great. She survived from being a target, and if the episode played out the way it did, and it wasn't Lauren immune, Lauren would have gone home, right?
Yep.
So that's a bad mark on her, but she won immunity and saved herself from that. So that's a good mark on her. So if you have stock of her,
again, I feel bad because I feel like we started during the StockWatch when the season was getting linear, right? Where a lot of the players, it was clear. I feel like when we do this for season 45, it's going to be a lot more dynamic because, I'll be able to.
A lot going on.
We'll have a lot more going on, and I'll also have my own stock rating, and then we'll figure out how to add both of ours and the median, the mean, significant figures, all that jazz.
The thing is, we got on this right in the middle of it, and that's that's not our fault. It's definitely not our fault. We got right in the middle of the season when you're right. It started getting really linear, and I think it's a great linear path. Don't get me wrong; it's fantastic.
I'm not complaining. It's just
absolutely. I think we've been able to really dive in. This episode, it's 5 people, and we've been able to dive in extensively until all the marks and demarcations of everybody left in the game. When there's 18 people or 20 people in season 45, we don't want to go for 3 hours. We don't want to go here and bore you all to death with 10-minute deep dives. We won't know that much, obviously, but it's going to be a lot of people. And so it's going to have to be very quick and very, not surface level, but very very round and small.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But really appreciate that we're able to build this right now and that we're able to build a lot of in-depth analysis here at the end. Let's go. Get ready for season 45. We will be back. It's confirmed. But yeah, I am really happy that we're able to really go in depth and take a look at this at the end game, because that gives us such a great foundation for the chaos that is trying to figure out who's going to win from a group of 20 people rather than 8 or 6 or 5. So last thing before we round out, we are going to go back to the Edgic, the stuff, the goods, mine, of course. Jam Jam had the best episode by far. The Carolyn one is obviously the one I want to focus on because that is the typical edit of someone who is an over-the-top person and is getting blindsided, right? Like that is pretty darn standard. So
yeah, but again, it is modern era, and I feel like a lot of the winners, we've seen their flaws a lot more than in seasons past. Right. And so, again, that's why I will not lose hope for Carolyn, and I don't view her any differently after this episode, because it's one of two things. Either A, we're going down a linear path for the first time in a long while with a Jam Jam win, or we're getting a more, not cookie cutter, but we're getting a more typical edit for the modern era with a Carolyn win. Right. Or we even have like a Heidi, or not Heidi. We get Erica win with like Heidi, like that kind of edit.
Right.
And so that's the big distinction, because even though she got over the top mixed 4, right? I know my Edgic. I don't think that this breaks Carolyn, and I don't want people to think that we are dogging on her after this episode.
We are not.
So
we want to make it clear we love Carolyn, and Carolyn has basically almost exactly the same amount of win equity as Jam Jam does right now. Like, it is so close and so paper thin, and that is why it's going to be an exciting end to what I think is going to be right up until the final votes are in, because they're going to make the final. They're going to make the final 3, and it's going to be one of them. So it's really exciting.
Is it possible for it to be tied at the end in the third place, like Heidi? Can we
Can we speculate? Yeah, can we think about that for a second? That would be really, really interesting. And that's why I keep talking about Ghost Island, because there's that dim thought in my mind that's like, oh, is this going to be a tie vote right at the end? It could be. Mm-hmm. That would be absolutely insane.
Yeah.
And I think it would be almost like a Cinderella fairy tale end to the season. Like, not even like a just classic story. Like, this is a fairy tale ending, like the best ending possible. And I mean, Heidi being the deciding factor isn't, she wasn't really that involved. But what if it was Carson? Like, we're really getting into crackpot theories here.
Carolyn wins.
Carolyn would win.
But if Heidi is in the final 3, then Jam Jam wins.
That is, oh my gosh, I love it. This is insane.
And then I don't know about Lauren. I feel like Lauren would vote Carolyn in the final 3, but like she could also, I think, be swayed by Jam Jam. I think she's kind of in the middle there, but that could easily happen too. Like, that's the one thing I'm excited for, like, if it is a Jam Jam Carolyn final tribal council, because we might have a close vote for the first time in a long while.
Yeah, every single vote in this new era has been 7-1. There has been one vote from a strong ally to someone else. James to Cassidy, we had Jonathan to Mike, and we had Danny to Deshaun.
Yep.
We've had those 3 rogue votes, but everyone else has voted for the winner. I'm thinking like a 5-3 here if it's not a tie. Like, I'm thinking a 5-3, maybe a 6-2, like the slimmest chance of 6-2. But I
don't even think that. I think
you think 5-3 or tie.
I think 5-3 tie, or even like a 4-3-1. Why not? Because again, Lauren, I think, would get a vote from like Brandon or someone like from early merge.
Right.
Heidi, I feel like, is going to get Danny's vote locked in. The only 0 vote finalist I could see and Carson would get Kane. So
no one's getting 0 votes.
No one's getting 0 votes. I do not, unless the jury is very close and someone really wants someone to win over the other.
Right.
They might get swayed that way. But I think if people voted honestly, I think there is no 0 vote finalist, which would be really cool.
That is really cool. I mean, our, Survivor Now podcast major host, owner Randy, has believed for a while now that if you get to the end of the game, you deserve to win. That would be a really interesting perspective to see at the end of the season because everyone, you're right. If it's like Heidi's there, she's getting Danny's vote. And then it could be a really close, like a 4 or 3 to 1 would be
insane,
even more insane. And then if it was Carson at the end deciding, like that's nuts. That's nuts. I think we're spitballing, but
we are.
This is good. The crackpot theories. Like, we're at that point in this season of Survivor where it's like now, okay, like now we can start really picturing out the wild scenarios because we've always kind of laid down the law. It's just like, all right, it's Jam, or Carolyn. And literally, you look at the, here, let me see if I can go to it. Like, you look at Carolyn, she's been 2 for 4 episodes. And you look at Jam, he's been 1 for 6 episodes. Like, it's been pretty linear, and it's going to be one of them 2, right?
Yep.
But now that we're so deep into the season, and now just for fun, we're just getting into crockpot stuff, and I think it's fun.
Exactly, and again, this episode, I feel like it was a very filler episode, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we the things we've talked about are things we've been kind of saying for the last few episodes, right? This is why, and we're just adding more fuel to the fire. So it's kind of fun just being like, okay, here's a potential final vote, and the thing is too, it's not that wild of a theory because I could easily see a 4-3-1. 4-3-1. That can be a vote.
That can be a vote, yeah.
Or even a 3-3-2. Can you imagine?
That's
I
think we've got too far. I think 3-3-2 would be the wildest finish in Survivor history. I'm not even kidding. Like, the tie vote at Ghost Island was very wild for sure, but even the Gabon vote where Bob won by like 1 vote, that's insane. 3-3-2 would be the most insane finish in Survivor history. I don't think there's any contention.
Oh yeah, and in a way wild world, it's not completely out of the picture. I think if it is a Tika 3 final 3, Carson would get what, like,
maybe 1 or 2.
Kane like someone wild like Brandon.
Probably Kane and Brandon, I think.
And then Matt, Danny, and Franny would vote Carolyn. Other people would vote Jam. I don't know.
I don't know.
But like, it's possible. Like, I feel like it is slightly possible. But we also don't know how Final Tribal Council is going to look like. We don't know how the jury's feeling, right? We don't know anything. And so I'm excited to see how the jurors respond to, how people are playing the game. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a dynamic finish regardless of how you put it. Well, that's it for this episode. I was thinking maybe we could do one more little kind of recap of how the season was, kind of talk about the overall narrative next time if you want to.
I'm game.
We could do one little wrap-up sesh, I think it would be good to because we've been talking about how this is going to end, because it's always about how it's going to end. I think getting a little retrospective and being like, okay, this is how it ended, and these were the signs, and this was clear. I think it'd be good for us.
Yeah, it would. Yeah. Be a beautiful way to end the start of a very cool podcast.
A very cool, very neat, very nerdy podcast.
Especially since I'll be out of high school, baby. Like, I'll be on my own.
Let's go. Will,
Jack,
anything else to say?
Again, if you're in the Maryland area, July 14th, let me know. This is to everyone. July 14th. If you're in the Maryland area, talk to me.
Got it. You have his IG down there, Official Saving Bruce. Official Saving Bruce. Oh my God, I can't speak. All right, well, this has been Jack and Will with the stocks. We hope to see you next week to do our little retrospective, but we thank you all so much for watching, and we will see you all later. Goodbye.